Yeah, I want this so I can.
I'll take these two for the audience. You have to press it.
How's this? Is that okay? Sure? All right. Good morning, everybody. I don't even know what, all right. Is this me?
Yes, or you.
No, I'm good like this. I have a very short presentation because I am speaking, this is my second time, and I'm only good in small doses. So the charm wears off quick. So I'm going to just talk about our experience just collaborating with clients and specifically through TopoShare Enterprise. So a little bit about Langan. We've been in business for 50 years, about 1,500, 1,600 employees. We have offices around the country and the world. Here's our footprint in the United States. And a little bit about me. I've been doing this for, man, it feels old when you start putting the 20 in front of your experience as a land surveyor. I've been working with point clouds for over a decade, and I oversee the mobile mapping and the all LiDAR extraction, whether it's from terrestrial or UAV or the mobile. I'm going to do something a little bit different this year. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm going to give you 2 truths and a lie. So, first, I live in the shark bite capital of the world, right? Second, that's oddly specific. Second one, a movie was made about a house that I grew up in. I'll tell you right now, it's the house from Up. And I have a tattoo of a total station on my inner bicep, which the question isn't if I'm that big of a nerd. So, all right, now we'll just get into it. And if you want to know the answers to that, we can, you can ask me at the bowling later. So, there is no knowledge that is not power, right? Emerson said that. And that's really what, we just make tons and tons of knowledge. All this reality capture and everything. That's what we do. And Ted has brought this up several times, so I won't beat this to death, but we'll talk about digital twins. That's the new BIM, that's the new GIS, that's the new reality, you know, it's the new buzzword, right? This is something that we do at Langan. We have a whole group of about 50 people. They're our digital solutions group, and they make this is, you know, whether it's from utilities or CRE, signs, it could be stuff based on, a gentleman yesterday saying the 4th dimension, which is time. If you ever hear someone say 4D, that's what the 4th dimension is, time, all kinds of stuff. So it's never, ever been easier to scan, right? Is that a fair assessment to everyone? Scanning is, you got I'm like a guy, RTC, probably one of the easiest terrestrial scanners to use. The mobile scanners from all the manufacturers are easier. We make tons of data now. The upgrades to the cameras from the first systems to the current systems, right? We're talking going from a couple megapixels to 60, 120, tons of data. Scanners are getting more returns, pulsing faster. So what do we do with all this data? We have this data. This is just a very small TRK data set. Each red circle that you see there is a spherical, and then it also pops the panoramics. I mean, look at that. And we have that at about 33 feet. I mean, that's just in imagery, it's tons of data. That's a 1,500 acre low altitude flight. I mean, it's easier to get all this data, but it's so much. So what do we do with it, right? And so here's some of the software. I don't know, some people might recognize some of it, some of the ones that we use. So we have ARC, we have TrueView. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with TrueView. It's the Leica product, it's a great viewer. We have the iTwin, which is now Bentley has merged and rebranded Context Capture, and that's their platform. And then of course we have Enterprise. So I'm not gonna go too much. This is the workflow that we currently use. It's Ted's diagram, but we're using this for external, where it goes to the supported operations, but we're also using it internally with our own engineers in LA, stuff like that. I'm just gonna get into a couple of use cases, and then I will send you on your way to lunch. Is that, by a show of hands, does anyone here use Topo Basic, I think we call it, right? None of you guys use Topo Basic? Oh, you should. It's a really, really good way to collaborate and work inside the platform, especially with multiple people extracting. If you happen to be using it, this is just an extension of it, so it won't change your workflow at all. Our primary reason when we first got it was it is a viewer. If you do work for municipalities, one of the main requirements most municipalities, quasi-government or government agencies will have to host the imagery, right? So it was a no-brainer for us, easy solution. So this, right now, what we're looking at, it was for a large rail project. And we had to host a viewer for the engineers, the client, and also a state agency and the rail agency. So 3 different agencies needed it hosted for 10 years. We have it up here. You can see when you click on it, it's got all the different cameras. They loved it. And there's some line work there too, but it's hard to see with the rail. Another great use for this, anyone can look at this, right? A layperson, and you can see we have the striping, you have the cloud, you can rasterize the cloud. It's very helpful for, let's say, you give this to a client, they can see the coverage. So if they want you to go back in and pull data out, they can see the limits. Like in this example, so we can see a little crosswalk hatching up to the upper left. We can get that. The client can see that, they understand what we can get, makes things easier. And then we use this internally. We just started really getting into it. It's you can mark up this. So this is on a web browser, and you can just mark up with a polygon, and then it'll email the person that's the administrator. So in our case, it would be me, and we get an email requesting with some notes, requesting features to be extracted. In this case, you know, bring the street out to that, you know, out past that line. Trying to think. I love this viewer. One of the best selling points of it is that you don't have to have it installed. Having software that has to be installed, especially on the government side, is very difficult. This is just a web browser, SSO, so you could set it up so you're, you know, 365, or I think it's LinkedIn or Facebook account, just to, you know, every time that data is accessed, there's a cost, a few cents or whatever. So I think, if I'm not speaking incorrectly, that's to prevent bots, right? Basically, the SSO, it's very easy to use. That's what everything with me, you always hear me talk about, is accessibility. The more accessible that cloud data is, the more accessible it is to extract the data, and the more accessible it is to view the data, is the better for everything, for the whole industry. And with that, I have this video I just posted on my questions. As I told you, it was a very quick one, and I'll give you all the gift of time. Unless you have questions. I love it.
Any questions, TOP Chair? You get to tell us what I've been talking about. There's someone in the corner behind you.
I don't know if you're able to share. I'm sure a lot of us are probably curious, like how much the cloud solution actually costs, and I know it may not be 100% applicable to everybody in this room because it seems like Langan is a pretty large company. Not everybody has, you know, a firm that large and are doing as many projects as you are. Are you able to share, you know, any sort of idea of like how much like cloud storage you guys might be accruing every month, year, whatever it is?
So what's nice about this workflow specifically is that only the finished product is going up, which is the smallest amount. It's not like the raw data is not going into this, or the processed mission. It's often, like in that example I showed with all those TRK pictures, I parsed that in half. Like there's just no need to put that many in. I'd have to look. I can give you an answer. I just don't have it's very cheap though, per gig. Like if you look at it at a per gig price, it's like cents, right, per gig.
Yeah, Mike's way back. Okay, I'll just holler. Yeah, I think the beauty, we stuck with a file-based. Yeah,
Russ has been calling it a viewer, but it's really, I mean, there's different viewers. There's the panoramas, and they all have their place, you know. This is really a kind of a file-based, it's a file-based strategy and implementation. So bottom line is, there's never any streaming or anything like that, so it's very inexpensive. So to get to real cost, all you really have to do is, it's very transparent, because you're gonna, if you put it on AWS, and I'm a little more familiar with that, but Azure or whatever, You just say, okay, how many terabytes am I storing and how much do they charge? It's your data warehouse. We don't have anything to do with it. So if you want to kind of make it, I think in miles, because we do a lot of roads, so a good mile is maybe 10 gig. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, with the imagery, maybe?
Yeah, with imagery, it's like 10 gig. So 10 gig a mile, you can kind of start working your numbers out to where, I think I worked it out once, like a mile of data stored every year is 80 cents. And then to download it all at 8 or 9 cents a gig would be $3.80. Every time one of these, to look in this environment, and it's the TopoDOT, this is a screenshot from TopoShare, right?
Correct.
And yeah, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the corner that you didn't put in there, but the bottom line is, to look at that, it's all just JSON files, raster images of the point cloud, and that's maybe several fractions of a cent. So the thing is, you can scale this as big as you want, and you don't have to be a big company. You're going to put this data anyway on the cloud, so you're going to pay that anyway. That's actually not any, unless your servers are going to be more expensive than putting it up in the cloud. But now you can get to it, and you can find it, and it's this GUI geospatial interface where you can just click and find your projects within a minute. And that kind of productivity is going to increase your productivity much more than you ever pay for it. So. If that's a long answer, but yeah, but you can, it's pretty transparent, really. We're not adding any cost. I'm sorry, TopoShare Enterprise does cost $18K a year fixed price. So one project's expensive. For 100 projects, it's $180. For 1,000 projects, it's $18. And it never, it's just a fixed price. So, and then the basic that you have is just, it's included in TopoDOT. So you can put it up and work in a TopoDOT environment like that.
So one thing, I know there was a class before there was a class that touched on TopoShare, Enterprise, and I didn't want to go into too much detail, but in case anyone didn't know, these red lines that we're seeing, these polygon lines, that's the tiles, the data tiles, and that data can be accessed. If you, let's say I gave you a link and I gave you permission, you could download the data through here, and then also, like as Ted mentioned, this is a JSON export. It's a function in TopoDOT. You just hit export and it's your line work. So this project, I'm taking back my time I gave you guys. This project right here, every 2 weeks we have to update the client, who then in turn updates the next client, all the way up, and they use this. So every 2 weeks we kick the new updated JSON, have our meeting, this is our progress, here's where we're at, and they love it. It makes everything very easy to understand and accessible. And I do have a slide that has, I don't think you were in the room, Ted, but I do have it where it has, here's all your layers over there. So the tiles I had turned off for this just because it was kind of muddling this image because it's so dark, because it's in very poor satellite imagery from Google.
Yeah, we implemented this to be, we're just looking at it to be scalable so you can use it easily. And the idea from all this is if someone wants a data view or panorama, all that, you can just say it's 100 to 150 times more expensive. Not that they're charging too much; it costs a lot to stream, right? And to go into their server. But you can offer it to them. You can take the files down from here, publish it there, and go at it. If they want to go to S3 and look at their point cloud, take them down, publish it in S3, and go ahead, look at it, and say, here's what it costs. We're not competing with anything, really. So it's just, how do you do your data governance? And the data governance is important for productivity and your own productivity, and then the communication and this collaboration. So,
Hey, Russ, thanks again for presenting, 9 times this week?
Yeah, 19 times.
I do have a question because it's awesome to see you guys integrating this into your workflow. And I know you do some DOT work. Have you had the opportunity to share the assessments, some of the things that Trevor was showing, where you can see data quality with your clients through TopoShare?
We haven't, Yes, but not to the agencies that you said. We don't, normally we're a sub to the, on-call. So it's not always direct communication with the DOT directly.
Yeah, but that's the point, that the raster images from like the heat maps
Yes,
and
all-
all
well,
can
but I
go up
put-
there, and then you could use them, and even if it's internal, you can kind of pull it out and go, okay, a year from now, you look at data and go, well, it's misaligned up here. Is that important? Blah, blah, blah. You know, you find it right away, as opposed to looking something a year old and going, okay, I got to cut cross sections. I don't know what's going on here. So,
And you can also have it branded, which I just recently found out. So you can see it. We have the Langan in the corner, so that's nice too. So now when the links go out, it has the Langan one. I tried to get my picture on there, but you guys told me no. It's like, can only be the
we said no?
no, I'm kidding.
We'll make that work. We'll take a picture.
Yes, right.
So you said you're using this with your clients and internally?
Yes.
So just how has that process changed from what you were doing before to and what you're kind of using now, TopoDOT Enterprise and TopoDOT Basic, and using it now? And how have your clients responded to TopoDOT Enterprise?
They love it. They love it.
Sorry, TopoShare Enterprise.
TopoShare Enterprise. For moving forward, for right now, I'm just going to say Enterprise and Basic. Is that all right? I don't want to keep misnaming them. It's great because giving access to the clients all this data, way for them to digest it, just leads to more, that leads to more work. It leads to them saying, hey, I see in the point cloud this example right here. From an engineer, like, oh, I didn't put the rasterized because it was, it was a lot, but if the rasterized cloud behind that, and it's, oh, you guys already have that. Can you just pull that for us? We have budget for that. We might not have budget to send the crew back out, and then a full survey, but if oftentimes they'll just free some of their engineering budget to go in and just grab stuff, for a few hours of labor. It's nice. So it creates an environment where people will ask you to extract more data.
And so that's more work orders for you guys. Which
Yes.
is more money. Right.
But we already have the fixed cost of
Fixed
scanning
cost,
it and
yeah.
registering is already done, right? Yeah, so that's what you
Well,
want.
or that you charge them if they're asking. Are they asking you?
Oh, this is paid
to be
work, yes.
orders, ask you for more things, and then you already just have it, so you just open it up and extract what they need. And
Yes.
would you say it gives you a competitive edge?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to think of different scenarios. It absolutely does. Just as a viewer requirement. And then it's already a viewer, but now it's a viewer that can carry metadata, can carry the reports, can carry the data tile distribution. So that's where it gives an edge over the other viewers. Most other viewers can't do that.
Yeah, and this is the last question you just mentioned. So you're getting paid. Have you worked out with DOTs? Like, are they paying you by the hour? Like, somebody calls. I've always heard a lot when you get that call and you go, oh man, the guy doesn't want to pay you. He doesn't have money, right? So then, and he just wants a clearance or something like that. But that's like 2 hours out of your day to
Right.
talk to him, figure out what he wants and all that. How are you dealing with that business aspect of it? Are you talking to the client up front saying, we're going to give you this link and here's what it costs to get more? Or are you just one off? Every time he asks for something, you say, well, it'll cost this. How do you do that?
Oh, yeah. No, so it depends. I mean, if are we talking internal? Or are we talking external?
Well, internal probably less so, but external. So, to a paying client.
Yeah, and it's another ASR. You guys familiar? An amendment.
I don't know. I don't know how that
survey
works.
Request, or and then it's just add on.
Okay.
Well, it depends on the client, obviously,
Sure.
and it depends what they're asking for.
Yeah. Well, if it takes you 5 minutes, fine.
That's what I mean. 5 minutes. I'm
But
not
if
talking
it's
5
a
minutes.
2-day processing job or something, 3-day
Sure.
processing job, you got to ask. And
Well, let's say that's half a day's worth of work for some reason, for the example, right?
Yeah.
Then we're getting paid for it.
okay. All right.
That's the goal. To me, that seems to be goal, just to have people want you to keep reusing this data that we have.
Do you have a method to differentiate aerial, mobile LiDAR, or different methods of data collection?
So in the basic, you can catalog it, what kind of acquisition it was. And then if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could make layers different and name them, right? Of the rasterized point cloud if you had different versions, correct? Yeah, because I name mine usually it's just whatever it is, intensity, color, but you could say UAV for your rasterized cloud in the viewer, yeah. Or you could say mobile or whatever you want, yes.
And that's what I think, what it would look like, and when you look at the dot, when you zoom out, you just see dots there. It would be a different project for your UAV, different project right next to each other for your mobile. And you turn them on both at the same time too. But, so when you turn one on, you can get data from that. You kind of keep it separate, maintaining that provenance. You don't want to commingle them, but they can be on the same spot on the map. You just have, one looks like a little airplane, one looks like, you know, a little.
Mm-hmm.
And and when you hover over it, there's the metadata. Tells you exactly what it is, when it was done, blah, 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 before you can open it.
And then I would like to keep working with you guys on, you know, evolving it, because I would love to see someday on the wish list, like a version, instead of having different projects for every version. Let's say you scanned it in 2018, you could like archive it, you know what I mean, and have a newer one. But that way, if you needed to go back, it existed there. And kind of to what he was saying as well, like maybe in the same project, you could have you could separate them out in there. I don't know. I'm just saying that. I know that might be the most monumental lift in the world. I have no idea. But
It's in the pipeline.
excellent. All right.
Well, at least I'm glad that now Russ is not calling it TopoCloud anymore. So.
Yes, it took me a while. But I would say definitely if you go on Amazon's website, if you type in AWS, that is, you'll get the price for the data storage. That's what we use. I know there's other Azure, right, you could do too, but we use AWS and never have had a problem with it.
I did look it up. It's for per gig per month. It's 2 cents.
Yeah.
And which comes out to like $20 per terabyte a month. And then for Glacier storage, if you're once you're done using it, that's going to be $5 per terabyte.
Yeah. Glacier is the cold storage, so that's where we move our jobs there. Like once, you know, it was in the discussion, I think, on yesterday, talking about cold storage. So that's like where you would put it, where it's not, you can get it, but it takes a little bit longer to get it out. But you put your data there, it's retired, and it's, as he said, very, very cheap to store your data there. So you should never have to delete it. Wow, I actually did one that went to 12 o'clock. Thank you.